I really don't need to say nothing. They got it all covered. But I will share this. I mean, the prophetess contacted us and she said, write down your revelation. And I'm more of a listener, so I don't really write down a lot of stuff unless I need to. So in the process of writing it down, I was having a hard time. So my oldest son happened to come by this week, today actually. And I asked him a question. I said, what type of parent was I to you? Wow. He always so tired, let him tell it. So he laid down on the foot of my bed as he always does. And I'm gonna make this clear. They all come home and they all get in my bed. And I would like to say, get out. But I've noticed lately that when I used to come home to that same house that was my grandmother's house, which I inherited, which it's my room, was her room, we did the same thing. And I aspired to be like my grandmother. And today I realized I'm reaching a mark. So going back to something that was said earlier, we learn how to parent through modeling. Yeah. But I had the privilege of being raised by a village, by the whole family. I was fortunate enough to be raised by not just my mother, but my grandmother, my uncles, and my aunt, who was rather forceful. She was the strong arm. She was the enforcer. And then I had another side of the family, which was my father's side of the family, which they were all just, different. But they all offered something and modeled it. But I had to realize today, I picked up a trait, which I'm going to call a rageaholic, which I had to unlearn. But the apostle stated, I think it was probably earlier, January, February, or it might even been last year when he spoke, he's practicing grace parenting. I took that to heart because I didn't realize at the time I've been practicing grace parenting, but I didn't call it that. I didn't have a term for it. But I did believe that in parenting, like Apostle Cornetta said, children will have the tendency to take advantage of your kindness. And especially in the era that they're apparently growing up in, they have more rights than you, so they believe. They entitled to a lot of things. But I'm going to state again, I was raised by a village. So when that first commercial came on back in 80-something with the little white girl, excuse my expression, with the blonde hair and the blue eyes and the teardrop coming down her face, and the 1-800 number came on and said, call! My auntie said, y'all watch that? I said, yeah. She said, call! And I'm going to beat y'all. And when they come to pick y'all up, I'm going to tell them they can keep y'all. And I said, I wasn't the kind to get many beatings, so I wasn't worrying about calling, but I did know she meant what she said, and she said what she meant. On the other hand, my brother and her daughter, they didn't listen too well often, so, they got a couple of
licks,
or what we call whoopings.
Right.
Okay, so, but what I can say is me, them, and the rest of the children in the neighborhood never called on our parents because we understood that our parents made certain sacrifices for us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Out of love. And that what they were doing for us was going to be far better than what anybody else was going to do for us.
Yes.
That was made clear. Now, I didn't like that she said, shut up. I didn't. Right now, I realize that was not grace parenting at all. So when I grew up, I made it clear to her, and even though I was, like I said before, I was a teenage parent. So I had different struggles than a lot of other people. But by the grace of God, which I didn't realize in the earlier part, how gracious he was to me, I was able to take care of my children. But I was able to realize there are some things I needed to unlearn at an early age. So the things that were good, that made me good, I kept them. But I was diligent about unlearning a lot of things. But I hadn't mastered being a rageaholic yet. But I did master shut up was rude. So I'm not telling my children shut up, and nobody else is telling them shut up. So when I got of an age, I could talk to my auntie. She was just a little bit more milder, but she was still auntie. I said, auntie, please, don't tell my children to shut up because that's rude. And she looked at me like, you shut up. But she didn't say it. Because I had realized in the process of growing up, she had begun to look at me as an adult. And she watched the things that I did with my children. She watched what I was unlearning. But she still hadn't mastered her rageaholic. But my grandmother, who watched us all, one day said, when she told them to shut up, as she often did, she said, Frida, don't tell those children to shut up. Now, my grandmother let me know that although she never said shut up to any of us, she never stopped it before. But she had realized at this time that that was not appropriate. And I say this word appropriate. That's what we have to learn for this era of children that we're raising. Not what's right, not what's wrong, what's appropriate, what's inappropriate. What's appropriate, what's inappropriate at certain places and times. We have to have life drills, just like we have fire drills. I said earlier when I mentioned my son, I asked him what type of parent, and I'm going to say what he said to me. He said, honor and respect took me a long way. That's what you taught us. You taught us honor and respect. And I said, because he was not my trouble kid. I mean, if I had to do it over again, I might stop right at him. You know, he was not my trouble kid. So coming from him, I was like, I mean, you did whatever. He said, and you taught us to be obedient and to obey quickly. He said, but I didn't always obey. He looked at the side of my eyes like, you didn't always obey? He said, no, but I learned to be honorable and respectful, and I learned how to break the rules by obeying and learning all the rules. That's what you said. I said, that's what I said. He said, yeah, that's what you said. You say you gotta learn the rules wherever you go, because the rules are differently wherever you go. The rules in Florida are not the same as the rules in Texas. So you can't go to Texas and do what you do in Florida and think you're going to get away with it. Look at him now, because he did tell me he was sleepy. He was on the foot of my bed. He said, but that's what you told us. You told us always honor and respect our elders and one another. I had 2 children at the time. So my youngest son had to learn to respect my oldest son. That was the foundation of our house. You don't talk back to your brother, he's the big brother. As long as he's not telling you anything wrong to do, you do what he say do. No questions asked. Because he in charge. It was the principle. It was the principle. It wasn't that who you think you talking to. Let's. I had to make that clear.
Right.
It was the principle that was the elder. And if you didn't learn to deal with the elder at home, you were not going to deal with the elder in the street.
That makes sense.
You were going to be disrespectful. So I'll say today, at this day and time, I did this hand today, and I'm going to make it real quick. Because I didn't realize when all of them was talking, it's the same thing. It says the thumb, by grace through faith, faith through love. She mentioned right off the bat, you need to have a foundation grounded in the reverential fear of the Lord in order that you can model something correctly and that you can yield the love that you've been given.
That's right.
The next finger, which is this one, love is an act of obedience. And children need to realize obedience is often learned through suffering.
Yep.
That means you're going to get a whooping.
Yes, God.
You might get a timeout, put in the box. But you're going to be chastised.
Yes.
And as parents, you must chastise your children. Because if you don't, someone else will. The middle finger, the importance of yielding to one another. I think I briefly mentioned that, but that's very key. That's key to a family. If a family don't learn to yield to one another, you're not going to be able to get anywhere, and your kids are not going to learn the importance of interdependence. Because this is family, a community, a nation. And if you don't learn how to yield at home, how you going to operate in the world? You're just not going to be